All right, let's jump into it. 19 past 11 on the 3rd of April. So we've just had Liberation Day. So Trump sort of getting out there, sort of. Look, I have to admit, I'm always amazed at how well this guy speaks. 1 hour straight, no sort of like, I mean, this is what you're doing. They're the head of the, what they call the free world, whatever. But, he just gets up there and just plows through it. And anyway, look, long story short with it all, we saw a whole bunch of tariffs come in. That was probably one of the wildest periods I've seen in the markets in a short succession, almost ever. Like if you get down onto these low time frames, this was just absolute mayhem carnage. These are like $25 swings in gold here. So 42 down to 21. Where was it? Around this, so probably 7 o'clock here. So yeah, down to 3104, bang, up to like that's a 40 buck swing in 20 minutes. Then back down another 20, then back up another 25, and boom, 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 boom. And we've opened up this morning, seen a little bit of a cruise up to the top side here, and obviously we found some selling happening. So very interesting, actually, sort of what's happening at the moment because we've got a big gap down on DXY, and it's trying to sort of close that gap. It's dropped down. It's actually cut out the lows. Show what I mean here. So it's cut out the lows through this sort of area where we were like, look, this is where the buyers need to hold it. It's taken out all these lows down here. So this is a very interesting point here because we've got a massive gap on DXY. So it's going to try and close this. Even if this wants to come down towards that 101, it's going to try and close this gap, which means we've got to see a little bit of a drive up, some US dollar buying here. And this could all be in the sort of idea of the whole sort of buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. And as we know, sort of US dollar has been absolutely smashed. Like a broad sort of outline of sort of what the tariff plans are is to, in theory, get people to produce more in America so that they have more jobs over there, that they're actually sort of having some sort of like income revenue. Well, actually, it's not income revenue because they're going to have the zero tariffs on it, but obviously the income revenue coming from the tax that these companies may pay. But I thought he was eliminating tax. Maybe that's on a personal level. I'm not quite sure. But regardless of it all, the idea is if you're taxing America or you put tariffs on America, then they're going to be sort of reciprocating in that. And it's sort of like reciprocal kind of thing. But if I pull up a chart, which I actually found, one sec. What's on there? There's like 4 pages of this stuff, but this is the board that he sort of pulled out, and it doesn't seem like this sort of one-to-one kind of thing with it all. Like, I mean, 90% really, the tariffs against the US are going into Vietnam. Um, Crazy, but okay, whatever. Point is, how can we apply it to the markets and what can we see for the trade? So we're seeing sort of metals, obviously, as said a second ago, sort of like starting to come off a little bit from the highs. But I mean, how many times have we seen this? How many times have we called that? And it just finds buys and powers on for new highs. So, this could just be yet another time. What I'm sort of thinking potentially though here is you've really hit any potential sort of stops down here. This is a stop hunt. This is a massive gap down. What I want to do is see what happens when we get back up to this 103.70 level. It really sort of dumped down quite hard sort of through that period and dancing around, flew back into there. Maybe this is the time where the market says, hey, look, you know what, we've hit all the stops down here. Gold's just been running to an absolute ridiculous amount ahead of the curve to this announcement of all the tariffs. Uncertainty, that's what's been driving gold higher and higher and higher. Well, good or bad news, it's known now. So the uncertainty has gone away. Maybe now we can see the flows of capital move into whatever areas these people sort of start to sort of think, okay, look, this is going to be the best return for us moving forward. And gold just absolute berserk up to the top side. As I've been saying, but I've been saying for the last $100, which actually is only the last 4 or 5 days, to be honest. Is a diminishing sort of risk reward return at the moment. And then you look at other things, you look at the US dollar and look, if this does work out, And they do start to see some investment. There were some large numbers thrown around from what I mean, wasn't this isn't new? It's been over the last couple of weeks or so that Apple's putting in $500 billion or something, or excuse me, Meta's putting in 500 billion, a bunch of other people putting in 20 billion here, 10 billion there. So it is sort of working in some regard. And if all this does work, and we've got NFP coming up this week as well. We had ADP numbers last night, very strong. Didn't really affect the market at all because the market was waiting for this tariff news. But if we do see some okayish US data, the uncertainty around the tariffs is gone. It may not be the best outcomes, but the uncertainty's gone. Maybe people could start to look for where's the opportunity now. So, I mean, all in all, we saw risk get pretty smacked last night. But let's jump onto a little higher time frame at least. This little move back up over here, if this comes back out, 104, I think we've got a big squeeze coming because this has taken out the lows. This is your sort of technical stops level. Anybody that tried to sort of roll it through here, bang, back down, it's taken out the bottoms now. If this gets back up here, and all things considered, with everything that's been happening, if metals come off, if US dollar gets above 104, I think this thing could squeeze. I've said this a few times and you know what I mean. Technically, it made a new low, so that is, yes, it is bearish. But as you can see, it did not sort of take that low and run. It took that low on a very big sort of negative divergence. That's 30 minutes. Who cares about 30 minutes? Look, it took that sort of took that low out, and it didn't run down. It didn't just go waterfall, sway. Yeah, everybody's agreeing. It's actually trying to sort of push back in. So for some reason, there's either people covering their shorts here because they think this may be a potential bottom. You've got people that are potentially buying here. What I want to see is what happens when it closes this gap. I think this is going to be the tell point here. We're either going to get a move up to close the gap, leave no gap behind, bang, and then there we go, underneath the lows, and that's it. We're going down to 101. Or if this thing moves up here, that's your move here. So look, I wouldn't count it out completely yet. I mean, we've still got to see what's happening with metals because metals are just, insane. I mean, it's hard to get used to the idea of a 20, 30, 40, $50 session every session with gold. I mean, that's great for my style of trading in and out, of course. It's just got to make sure you're on the right side of it. So, this thing's just been running like berserk. It's got room to cool off. US dollars on its knees. It's got room to sort of at least bounce a bit. I think sort of, yeah, see what happens through Asia. I think Asia's going to be a little bit hectic, but I think metals have got the chance to sort of cool off here a little bit. Gold, as I said, look, on this, you can't really sort of call a great deal. I mean, obviously, here we go, a bit of a wick now at the top. So we have some sort of data coming out. What is this? What is that on? Trade balance for Aussie. Interesting. So we'll see how this comes out. So yeah, look, it's got a little bit of a wick out here, but look, this is a 4 hour. It's got 2 hours, 2.5 hours left on it. So it could very easily just eat this up and then continue out the top side. I think of a 4 hour period, I would say you'd probably want to close above sort of 150. That's the kind of area that I'm looking for here. I think this is really going to be sort of battleground for it all. I mean, obviously everything is saying topside, um, but I think you just want to see if this holds for an underside of this and then moves back down. But till you back down under 31, it's very much buy the dip sort of status. So we'll sort of see how this sort of plays along, particularly through Asia session. One thing that I was looking on was silver, which obviously got dumped down. It has sort of recovered quite well. So we'll have to sort of see if this can take out. If it takes out its wick, then I think we're going to see a lot deeper down. So this is what I've been tracking, this 4 hour, no, it's on the daily there, negative divergence to the top of the wedge. So we've got that initial break. As I said, this is a daily negative divergence. So really, you want to see a close lower down on these sort of things. Like, yes, it's broken here. This could just be a little retest. Underneath this wick will be a confirmation that we're coming down a little bit lower. The measured move of this, I know it sounds insane, is almost 10% from the highs in that. So this is back down at sort of $31. So, there's a lot of room for these things to cool off. That is a technical setup. Underneath the swing lows, 32.80, and a close down under here. Then you're looking down at round 32 and then 31. So easy sort of chunks on the way down. Look, these things do have to cool off at some sort of point. And as I said, look, if they decide to sort of see some value in US dollar at this point, then there's a good chance that these things do take a little bit of a whack while the market kind of digests and works out what they're going to do sort of moving forward with all this sort of tariff stuff, and see how they do their sort of calculations about what kind of damage it's actually going to do to sort of, particularly with silver, the manufacturing sort of side of stuff, because it plays both cards, wears both hats kind of thing. It is a, precious metal, but it's also the manufacturing side of it all. On that, with the manufacturing, we've got copper, it came back down, and this is the point of sort of sitting and waiting for these kind of things. So I measured this out before. This is a 10% drop from, or just shy of 10% drop from that capitulation high. So these sort of moves here, and I called this at the point, and I said, look, this is, I did short it, so it's all very well sort of like saying, hey, I did it, but whatever. Point is, this thing moved. We all know what happened with it. It went insane. Bang. Up here, 5 minutes, it went 2.37%. Those are capitulation moves. I referenced a few of them at the time, and I said, look, the general outcome of these things is this kind of sell back down. So I've been waiting around this 488 zone for buys for a while. It obviously sort of filled and held quite well. I'm a little bit cautious on this now, so I've actually closed that position already. I was just like, I don't know, sort of it. As I said, if these metals all take a bit of a cooling, not to sort of say they are, and it's a bit hard to sort of stand in front of these things, particularly when they are, particularly gold, so incredibly bullish. But we're seeing silver similar to their sort of manufacturing side, as obviously copper would be. I think there's a potential for these things to even come down a little bit lower. So I did get the feel on this buy zone, which is good because I waited and I sat and I sat and I sat, and particularly when it looked like it was running away from me a couple of times, I was like, because I missed a few of these pullbacks here. I was waiting at the 61, just missed. So I sat there and just watched this thing go to the moon. And then this time I was just like, nah, look, I've been saying this every session. 488 was where I wanted to be. It's where we got it. And yeah, as it happens, bang, that's when the confidence drops and you're like, oh shit, do I actually want it now? So look, I still think copper has this leg coming in it. I just think that this may pull back a little bit further now. If we sort of see, particularly if we see US dollar sort of push up a little bit. Look, US dollar is right down the bottom. It's only early days. It's only half an hour that it's pushed off the lows. If it takes out its lows, then I think it's on with the story that, as we've been seeing it, Aussie moving up, sort of like metals probably sort of holding their gains a little bit there as well. Just on metals, gold silver ratio, this is one that I'm surprised that metals have held so much with this. This is a great sort of play through here. This is this range that we've been sort of dealing with for 3 months or so. This is the negative divergence that I called last week. And basically what you can see here, and I sort of detailed this at the time, obviously negative divergence through a channel broke out. So it was around here or so that we call the negative divergence. So broke out, we could see the buyers moving up. And this is what you want to see when you see these things pull away. Here's your channel, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. The fact that it didn't go to the bottom here puts the pressure on the idea that you come up here, and that's a break of that pattern. And this is what I say, it works for diagonals, also sideways kind of channels and that as well. And what you can see is the buyers are moving up, buyers are moving up, buyers are moving up, and they're applying that pressure and obviously popped out the top. And here we go, we got this big gap out the top up here. So this is moving along. I expect this probably to sort of continue up towards sort of 95. that's pretty much the measured move sort of target of that sort of range that we've been in for 3 months. It's also the highs from back in October, was it? Also thereabouts, October 22. So gold's making a little push back towards the highs here now. So we'll see what we can have. I'm going to be jumping in and out of this because I am managing a couple of positions. But yeah, we are sort of seeing this move up here. So I'd expect this move probably to sort of to continue. It's stalled a little bit, big gap up in that. Not really sure. Can't really see too many gaps in that sort of through gold silver ratio. So it'd be interesting to see if this closes and moves up or if it just holds it and runs. But certainly at the moment, it's yeah, sort of breaking towards and most likely going to move to that towards that 95 price target. So cover DXY, Aussie. So this is a great sort of one again, sort of back down. I was saying I did want to chase it up around here, and I have to admit there was a lot of these points where we sort of broke here and kept going, particularly sort of as that news was coming out overnight, moving back up to sort of like you know, sort of mid 63s. I was like, damn it, man, I've just missed this one. But I held and got fills at 62.40 something. So somewhere around in this wick over here, which is good. I have also closed that closed that position already. So we'll see how we go. Look, I think these things as they come down, I think we'll have a couple of options at least, if not getting back down into sort of lower 62s. Whereas if we do get back down here, that's a level that I'd like to be buying for a little bit more of a hold in that. So this buy zone works perfectly, which is good. So you leave these things on the chart, but I think sort of certainly, you know, would have been nice to sort of have ridden this sort of area through here. But coming back down, I think sort of, yeah, if we can get down at 62, I think that's a more sustained level that we might be sort of buying. It does take you out of this sort of rising support, but to a certain degree, this thing's been chopped up so many times, it's not super relevant. So I'm not banking a whole heap on the fact that this breaks down here, but I think if this sort of comes back down 62, that'll provide a good little entry for some longs there. It has really just got whacked here, and as you can see from 63, it's got no top wick on this, so should it go back above sort of 63, could be moving on a little bit further. Just in regards to all this sort of stuff at the moment, US dollar down, as I speak, it's being sold into, so that could be something moving up forward in that, but as it is at the moment, it's trying to rally, so I think that'll be putting a little bit of weight on it. China got absolutely obliterated, and I'll cover the yuan in a second because that just went up like pretty much vertical. And then we've got RBA is still as a tick for Aussie. So no, not all guns blazing for Aussie yet. Certainly, if we see US dollar start to sell off and break down, you got 2 out of 3, then that's not too bad. And you know, we sort of see what happens with the yuan. But for the time being, it's still not all guns blazing for Aussie to sort of be buys going heavy, going long, holding this kind of sort of stuff. I think, as you can see, this is on the 4 hour with the RSI sort of rolling over. I'd say a couple of tests around here, maybe an overshoot down to 62, and then we could start to see things sort of chop up a bit. But Aussie really has just been up, like it's just an ugly chart, really, apart from the fact that it's got lines and that all over it. But there's no trends in this thing. You know, everything else has been sort of trending to a certain degree, sort of like hitting highs or hitting lows or whatever. Aussie's just up, down, up, down, up, down. You can't, this is not buy and hold sort of status here. Till we get back up above 64, I think this is just going to continue to chop. As I said, I'd have another stab around sort of 62 should we get the opportunity. Speaking of China, we can have a look at this. Just went absolutely through the roof. So, you know what I mean? I was looking at 730. Obviously, this is a news-driven thing. So, you know, that they don't care about levels in terms of within news. So, shot straight up, pretty much vertical. If you ever look at this on it, look at this. Bang, straight up to the top side there. So, interesting with this because China sort of made all these promises not to play with their currency. Trump made reference to this, not specifically to China, but obviously to other countries in terms of their sort of response or retaliation to the tariffs being imposed. Yuan is a pretty managed currency, as you can see. It's not a super mover. It does have its periods. But a lot of the time, and a lot of the time that I cover this thing, it's just, oh, it's grinding, it's grinding, it's grinding, it's grinding. It's not sort of, it doesn't typically do these kind of moves. like this kind of stuff, which is just insane. Um, so I don't know. It's a question about sort of is this just traders or is this PBOC that has allowed this thing to move like this? I think having a look at sort of how they do their fixing will be sort of important for it all. So I just think gold moved back up here at the moment. We're gonna have to manage a position in a second. Jesus, thing is just on buy mode. Yeah, so have a look at where they do with their fixings. If their fixings are higher, then that's obvious. They got a 2% band they can move per day. You know what I mean? Obviously, higher band means that it allows that 2% window to move higher. And copper, we've already sort of covered. Cool. So that's pretty much it. Just flying through the charts at the moment. Very hectic night overnight. As I said, ADP came out. Market didn't really care, though they are some strong numbers there. So DXY is being sold into as we speak. If it takes out the lows, then I'd say that's pretty much it. And bang, it's going to be going back down. And we're going to see metals pop up a little bit higher. We've got ISM out tonight. So these figures are looking not too bad. Remember, these are the ones with 50 as the baseline. So above 50 is sort of expansion, but it's looking to be relatively flat. So nothing shocker there. And then, of course, tomorrow night, ADP, NFP, looking to sort of slow down there a little bit. So we'll see how this one goes. All right, that's it from me.